All right, what's going on, guys? It's Brett. Let's talk about Fantastic Four First Steps. I am going to get into spoilers, as I always do. I have a very hard time talking about movies without at least talking about the spoilers of the film. It's just the way my brain works. A lot of people, I wouldn't say that a lot of people in the space have been looking forward to the movie, but given all of the news surrounding Pedro Pascal leading up to the release of the film and the promotion for the film, how it relates to the release of Superman, what it means for superheroes in general, I think a lot of people do have an interest in movies like this, even if they're not necessarily planning to go and see it. So it was, of course, Fantastic Four First Steps. I keep forgetting the second part of the title there, but it stars Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm, Eben Moss-Backrack as Ben Grimm, and Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm. In the movie, Galactus, well, let's reel it back. Shalla-Bal comes to Earth and essentially tells them that Galactus has marked their planet for death and that they should get their affairs in order because he's on his way. And this is, of course, just after we find out from Sue Storm that she is pregnant with her and Reed's baby. And they go to outer space. They go off the planet to go and discuss with Galactus how they can save their planet. And Galactus says to them, if you want to save your planet, I want your baby. He wants Franklin Richards. And so we have the plot for this movie. In the film, the Fantastic Four have been a team for several years now. I think it's 4 years now. And the Earth really is in love with them. And when they come back to Earth with that message from Galactus and they say, you know, unapologetically, Reed says, look, he asked for our child, for my child. And I said no. And you see this storyline, like some information give way to like Earth kind of falls out of love, or at least America falls out of love for the Fantastic Four, with the Fantastic Four after that announcement. I can't believe, like, it felt like this plot line could have been explored more thoroughly, but we'll get into that. I'm going to tell you guys some of my likes, some of my dislikes, and some of my general thoughts. So the likes for this movie were that the retro futuristic design is solid, it's continuous, it doesn't lose steam halfway through, it doesn't seem to give way to imagery that feels inauthentic for what they were trying to portray. And I feel like if you're watching a lot of TV these days, it's harder to hold on to something that ambitious aesthetically, but in a movie, of course, they pull it off very, very well. It's interesting because it gives what it feels like a globalized society, because you have the Future Foundation, you have all these, you know, it's their own version of the UN. But the 60s retro futuristic aesthetic, which I kind of describe as women with big hair and Chanel with robots, it feels like it's an idealized version of America, a la the space race with the Soviet Union, where there's actual pride and love for your country, despite the fact that the film has globalist themes with the idea of the, you know, of the Future Foundation and how they have to work together with other nations to try and stop Galactus in various ways. But there is a seeming love for home. At least that's how I interpreted it. Somebody else might see that entirely differently. And it's kind of connected to their love for the Fantastic Four since they returned with their powers. And what I liked most, I think, were that there were themes of family that carries throughout the film, not just through the main four characters, but through Shalla-Bal, the Silver Surfer, and the sacrifice she makes in this movie. So that theme through the four lead characters works well, and all four actors connect on a level that makes you feel that family is important to them. You know, there's an elegance to the banter in how family talks to each other that isn't always accurate to real life, but feels, when it's done in film and television, as a solid way of connecting everyone, because it shows familiarity, the familiarity that everybody has with one another. And I thought that those themes worked really, really well here. It also has themes of motherhood in relation to both Sue and Shalla-Bal that, you know, I think the women folk, I think the ladies, and I think the ladies are going to really like the themes with Sue and the baby, as well as Herbie. I think Herbie's going to be a hit with the ladies. And the sad thing is that I think that if Marvel was still a brand for children like it used to be, I think Herbie could have sold them a lot of toys. But Marvel, alas, is no longer a brand for kids, so I don't know if there's any actual money to be made there outside of some maybe uninspiring Funko Pops. The standout character in this film for me was Johnny Storm. Joseph Quinn does an absolutely fantastic job in this movie. And maybe it's just because, going into this, so many people have been critical of Pedro Pascal, for reasons not connected to the movies. And I'm going to be fair, when we get to the dislikes, Pedro is the one that, in my personal opinion, has the weakest performance in this movie. So that's just my personal opinion on it. Somebody else may interpret it differently. I'm not a big Fantastic Four fan. Like, I'm not all in on the lore, so perhaps there's elegance and nuance in his portrayal that just caught to me, but it didn't, that caught to you or to fans of the Fantastic Four that just didn't with me. But Joseph Quinn gives this very, very upbeat yet loving portrayal of a guy who is, they did these interviews before the movie about how, Johnny Storm, he used to be a womanizer, and is that sexy anymore? Well, in this movie, he has an unabiding love for the ladies, and in many ways, it's him, his connection, his desired connection with Shalla-Bal that leads to some of the best dialogue and character growth as he kind of evolves to learn her language, to try and connect with her, to try and save his planet and save his nephew, which led to just fantastic moments of character-driven growth for him, and also his bromance with Ben Grimm, which is always a nice reprieve on screen, because what this movie does probably better than some people might give it credit for is that there is humor in this movie, and it's connected to the way in which these members of a family interact with each other. So it's in the banter back and forth between Ben and Johnny. It's in the banter that they have and the way that they interact with one another because of their familiarity. They don't use that humor as a means of undercutting the seriousness of the threat in this movie, which is always taken seriously. I mean, basically what they're told is like, give us your child because I need your child to finally be fed. I will not be satiated until I have the power of Franklin as Galactus. I can't rest until I have him. The threat is never taken as anything less than serious. They're going to lose their entire planet. And certainly that leads to some actual, halfway well done bits of dialogue in the way that they discuss the ethics of Reed Richards' approach to this, his very analytical, educated approach to such a serious topic. It leads to these almost great bits of dialogue with Sue, but as a threat, it's always taken as 110% serious, which was just really, really good to see, because most of the time, one of the reasons that the Marvel humor tends to fall flat in current years, one, everybody has kind of the same sense of humor, which is like character A, character B, character C, all have generally the same tone of humor because it's all generally the same tone of writer and editor that are giving it to them. And it's kind of applied at times where it's inappropriate, like in the final battle, while things are all going wrong and somebody has to crack a joke, which makes you wonder, is anything even plausible as going wrong? It doesn't seem that way because they don't seem to be taking it seriously. I can't take this seriously if this character can't take it seriously. So this movie understands what the humor is, where the humor needs to be directed, and it doesn't expand beyond that, which I appreciated. So I appreciated the themes. I appreciated the themes of motherhood very, very well. It does connect at the end. There was these rumors going around early on that the final film was going to be Shalla-Bal teaming up with Sue Storm to finally take down Galactus. And that is, in a fashion, kind of true, but it's connected directly to motherhood. It's connected directly to what a mother would do to protect her child, or in the case of Shalla-Bal, what a mother would do to help assuage the guilt she felt for saving her own planet and going to work for Galactus. So they mirror each other, though I think that some of those themes could have been better explored on the Shalla-Bal end. So some of the dislikes, and it was Pedro Pascal. Now, I am one of those people who likes to go out of his way to kind of find something good about an actor, especially if we're criticizing them for stuff that they're doing off screen. I think it's important to be able to separate the art from the artist, because if you're going to do this, if you're going to talk about movies, you should be able to both talk about the stupidity of these actors when they are not on set, as well as talk about the triumphs they have on screen when they come. And in this case, for me personally, that was not Pedro Pascal in this movie. He's the weakest part. He's playing distant and emotionally closed off. And I just didn't feel it. Like, because of the portrayal that he gives, it feels like he's not in his own head. It doesn't feel like he's hampered by his own intelligence and inability to connect with others. It just feels wooden and one note. And there are multiple times in this film, between the birth of his child to the end, again, I gave spoilers earlier, so, don't bite my head off, to when seemingly Sue Storm is dead after sacrificing herself to protect her child, where in the hands of a more competent actor, he could have taken that closed off performance earlier and truly elevated it through something more visceral in the moment. It would show just how far he had been pushed to the limits, that his general personality is now give way to grief and to sadness or to joy or to happiness. And it never felt like those moments where they really called upon him to hit a mark. It just didn't hit for me. And that could be different for other people. Again, if you are a longtime fan of the Fantastic Four, if you're a lore enthusiast and you know a great deal about Reed Richards outside of the movies, which is, my experience with them, maybe you can educate me in the comment section about how he actually nails notes in this film, with a subtlety that I'm not getting. But it wasn't there for me as a quasi-normie. But that's kind of your marketplace now. Most people that go to these movies have not read all the comics and aren't going to be there for the nuances of the characters. So perhaps there needed to be more there. There needed to be more asked of him in those more serious moments. But even him, there's a point in the movie where he's having an argument with Sue, and they're discussing the ethics of him even kind of contemplating the idea of giving up their son. He's not contemplating it. He's not going to do it. But given that his job is the intellectual, he has to at least weigh those options. And in these scenes, Vanessa Kirby hits her mark. She's appalled by the idea that he would even think of such a thing. And in it, Pedro is supposed to be, as Reed is supposed to be saying, I have to think about it, but I'm not considering it. And there's a great set piece there. There's a great idea there about the ethics of something as extreme as giving up your own flesh and blood to save the entirety of the planet, which kind of leads into one of the other things that I felt went really underexplored, which is that you're brought into this film with a United States that truly does love the Fantastic Four. You get the shots of them on TV, of everybody clapping for them. You get the kids across the street at the school who want to see Ben Grimm lift a car. And they're kind of these folk heroes to everyone around them. And when they come back, Reed, inexplicably, he literally didn't even have to do this, he tells them that we tried to negotiate with Galactus, and he's like, but I obviously I'm not going to give up my firstborn for the planet. And I feel like he expected the whole planet to be like, yeah, that makes sense. Because in our rational minds, we understand that it is insane to expect a person to give up their own flesh and blood to save everybody else. Yet, if you're that person, this is kind of the argument that people have that governments make every day. Do the needs of many outweigh the needs of the few? And in a planet marked for death, where now everybody expects that because of their lack of a sacrifice, they're going to die, as well as everybody in their life that they know and love, that was a theme that could have gone and been explained more, explored more between the characters. But after they explain what happened. They then develop this plan with the Future Foundation and like governments and people working together all across the country, or all across the world, excuse me. There's a heavy focus here on the idea of global cooperation, which of course we know is utterly insane. That might be the most insane thing about this movie. The most insane thing about this movie isn't Galactus, the giant planet-eating space god. The most insane idea this movie has is that the entirety of the world, every government, every person will come together and work together to reach a common cause, even under the threat of planetary extinction. I think we all who are in the know understand that that is just ridiculous. So I felt like the theme of them of being turned on could have been explored more. And also the sacrifice at the end that Sue makes hits and works, because you see her connection to Franklin and to her child. But the additional sacrifice that the Silver Surfer makes, that Shia LaBeouf makes, it's undercut by the fact that you just don't spend enough time with her to really feel the weight of her turning her back on Galactus because of the guilt she feels over, you know, what she about all the other planets she sacrificed to protect her own planet, which is what she did, which is Galactus came to her Earth and she said, and basically said, like, she said, if you come, you said, I will come work for you if you spare this planet for me. And in some of the best scenes in the movie, you see Johnny, who's decoded her language, explained to her, these are the sounds of the planets that didn't make it, that you as Galactus's cohort have brought to their knees and destroyed through your selfishness. And there's emotion there, but you just don't spend enough time with the character for it to hit in the way that they wanted it to, given the fact that she comes out of nowhere to kind of prevent Johnny from sacrificing himself for his, I almost said for his grandson, for his nephew at the end. And when Johnny was about to sacrifice himself, I think mine and a lot of other people kind of swelled and were like, look, this guy's had fantastic character growth. We've seen a lot of him to like, and you felt that moment, but then it's undercut because the sacrifice is eventually given by somebody that you just don't spend enough time with. It. At one point after they escape Galactus, she prostrates herself before him and says, I failed you. And he hits her, whatever. He squeezes her and he disposes of her before the scene cuts. So, you know, it's not like you see a ton of scenes of him being awful to her to really see why she would turn her back on him at the end, in addition to everything related to her guilt. So I just felt like those underexplored themes, the lack of Pedro Pascal's ability to really nail the scenes that asked a lot for him, hindered this movie, given the fact that he is billed as, the leader of the team and the star of this movie. He's the first character you see on screen. So some of my general thoughts were that the movie leans into the cosmic elements early, which is good. Like, one of the things you think about when you see these movies is like 20, 30 years ago, doing Galactus is a lot harder in the age of, before CGI was what it is today. But now you don't just get cutaways. You see a good amount of Galactus. And I think it's at its best. It's the most interesting when you see Galactus on planet Earth, because when it's in space, everything just looks like one big just CGI blob in dusk, which, that's the downside of that type of cosmic storytelling, is that it's not bright, it's not focused, it doesn't have imagery that I would call all that enthralling or captivating. It all kinds of runs together. But when he gets to Earth, you see his size and you see his mass, and the first thing I thought about, if I'm being completely honest, is I was like Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters, and his face looks like the face from Legends of the Hidden Temple. I don't remember that guy's name, but you guys know what I'm talking about. But that's the character design, but it works when he's at scale on Earth and you see the entirety of New York City getting destroyed. But I think Herbie would have sold a ton of toys if Marvel was still actually a brand for kids. It's not going to do numbers the way Grogu did or the way Baby Yoda did in plushes, I'm sure, for fans of Star Wars, but Johnny was easily, at least in my personal opinion, Johnny was the standout character in this movie, along with his relation, his kind of friendship, his brotherhood with Ben Grimm. Sue Storm, Vanessa Kirby hits the marks that she needs to, as well as she needs to, but in my personal opinion, I think that Pedro Pascal was the weakest link in this film. But I do think that if you're semi-interested in going to see this movie, the method in which it uses to take itself just the right amount of serious, connected with the fact that it is a cosmic story that looks good on the big screen, you may want to go check it out. I gave it a positive review on X last night, but my guess is, like, if you've got Marvel fatigue, if none of the last few movies have interested you, then I think the thing that would interest you the most about this is the fact that it doesn't fall into the trap of tonally inappropriate Marvel humor. If Johnny Storm is perhaps one of your more favorite characters, this one might hit for you. But you should let me know down below. I don't even like to give ratings, guys. Like, I loved Superman. I liked this movie. But there's every possibility that if I had seen this movie on a different day, perhaps I'd have felt differently about it, same way as I did about Superman. But let me know down below. Are you planning to go and check out this Fantastic Four movie? Do you have like a strong attachment to the characters or the previous movies? I saw people rating the releases, from the 05, 07, 2015, and then this one. This one kept me interested the whole movie. I did enjoy it, but I'm not going to necessarily say that if you're feeling Marvel fatigue that you need to run out and go see this movie. I think that the underdeveloped plot points are probably enough for critics who are harsher on their movies than me. Again, if you watch this channel for any length of time, you know that I love a movie in theaters, and I'm pretty lenient when I give my reviews. The underdeveloped plot points in this movie will be enough to keep plenty of people from wanting to go and check out this movie or giving it a good rating. So let me know down below. Did you see it? Are you planning to go and see it with friends and family? I would be interested because Marvel needs to turn things around right now. They didn't get what they wanted out of Captain America: Brave New World. They certainly didn't get what they wanted out of Thunderbolts. I saw that the audience score was high for this movie, but I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. So let me know down below. If you don't know what it is, it's Pop Culture Crisis. We are live Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, noon Pacific. You should come check us out. See you there.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.